Take a look at this lounge store ad with the happy Kenny Rogers.
G'day, Sydney here. I'm so happy. Not only because I've just opened my new store here in Haberfield with over 1,000 lounge suites and sofa beds to choose from, but also because my lady tells me I'm just like my sofa beds. She says we're comfortable, strong, restful, colourful, well-built, great to look at, fit the decor and not expensive. I've got to have the best range of sofas in Melbourne. And guess what? My sofa bed this week, and I'll throw in this outdoor setting at Sydney Lounge discount of 73 Woodville Road, Granville, and now at 72 Parramatta Road, Haberfield.
There's only one VHS Revue segment that can do this ad justice. Alright, let's break it down. And keep in mind, this tape is a Melbourne TV recording. So this is an ad for a business called Sydney Lounge Discounters. Now, I couldn't quite tell whether he says "G'day Sydney" or "G'day Sydney here" at the start.
G'day, Sydney here.
So either he's talking to a Sydney viewer or his name is Sydney, or possibly both. Well, thanks to Google, it's a bit more obvious in this ad from 1996.
G'day, Sydney here. I'm cooking up the best deal on sofa and sofa beds in town.
Right, so his name is Sydney, and at some point, I guess he added the apostrophe to the store name to clear that up. But then, the addresses of the two stores, Granville and Haberfield, they're in Sydney. And have a closer listen to this bit.
I've just opened my new store here in Haberfield with over 1,000 lounge suites.
I reckon I watched that 10 times before I noticed the word Haberfield has been dubbed in.
My new store here in Haberfield.
So they've gone to a lot of trouble to maintain the illusion this is a Sydney store, but then they apparently forgot to change this bit.
I've got to have the best range of sofas in Melbourne.
This ad is doing my head in. Alright, so in summary, a guy named Sydney operates lounge stores in Sydney and Melbourne. The pieces to camera in this ad appear to be originally intended for broadcast in Melbourne, but no doubt to save money, they've amended this Melbourne ad for the Sydney market, adding Sydney graphics, adding audio to localise it to the Haberfield store, but leaving one pretty obvious Melbourne reference in by accident. Then, it's still broadcast in Melbourne anyway. So what, after all that, Channel 10 played the wrong tape?
The answer is no.
And I know this because there are other Sydney-based lounge commercials on this tape, so it's clearly a deliberate decision. If you ask me though, that first guy was way too happy. If you want a good price on a couch, buy from a guy who looks like he's about to cry.
G'day, I'm from Stewart's Furniture and Home Base, and I've been selling furniture in Sydney for 10 years, and I tell you, I'm going rough, real rough. I'm just going to have to accept whatever I can get for $1 million worth of lounge suites. Hundreds and hundreds of lounge suites. Leather look, fabric designer suites, sofas, sofa beds, even leather. I'll consider all offers. This is the biggest forced sale of lounge suites ever seen in Australia.
Pay just $1 deposit and get 12 months interest free. $1 deposit, 12 months interest free.
It's got to go, or I'm gone.
Geez, if ever there was a guy who needed a lounge. So what's with all the Sydney ads? Well, let's go back a bit. Television began broadcasting in Australia in 1956. Not quite that far. Australia's third commercial TV network had many owners since it began as Melbourne's ATV Channel O on the 1st of August 1964. It was originally owned by Ansett Airlines, but in 1979, Rupert Murdoch bought a 50% stake in Ansett and thus acquired control of the Melbourne TV station. Channel 10 in Sydney, on the other hand, was launched on the 5th of April 1965 and was owned by United Telecasters, a consortium of Amalgamated Wireless, Colonial Sugar Refining Company, the anachronistically named Email Limited, which manufactured electricity meters, Bank of New South Wales, and the NRMA. By 1980, Network 10 had additional stations in Brisbane and Adelaide and was turning a tidy profit despite consistently running third in the ratings behind 9 and 7. However, the catalyst for the real problems, not just for 10 but perhaps for the world generally, came in 1985 when Rupert Murdoch became a US citizen. Due to Australia's media ownership laws, he was forced to sell his TV stations.
I own 60% of that network. All right, break it up, boys.
Network 10 was thus acquired by Northern Star, an offshoot of the Westfield Group controlled by property tycoon Frank Lowy. But Westfield was hit bad by the 1987 stock market crash, and by late 1989 had split Network 10 in two, offloading the smaller affiliate stations in Adelaide, Perth and Canberra to another consortium led by Charles Curran called Capital Television Group.
Interesting. No, wait, the other thing. Tedious.
Even so, declining ratings and a run of bad programming decisions and jarring rebrands, along with a recession we apparently
had to have,
led Northern Star to go into receivership in September 1990, and by May 1991, Network 10 was bankrupt and went into liquidation. The situation at 10 was so dire, to save money, Melbourne took the Sydney feed overnight, not just for the program, but the direct feed from Sydney, including all the local Sydney ads, which is ridiculous by today's standards, and even in the early 90s it seems bizarre a commercial TV station in Melbourne, then a city of 3 million people with no competition from pay TV or the internet, couldn't just have one person there overnight changing the tapes for the local ads.
All the physical labour is now done by a single Australian man.
So that's why this tape of Melbourne TV has Sydney ads on it. They did a good job of disguising the switch too. The first two ad breaks are Melbourne, but after that, which would have been about 1:30 in the morning, a brief dip to black, and then it's all coming from Sydney.
About what you expected. Easy would do it. Very easy.
But I suppose this was during the era where TV stations still sometimes just switched off overnight, so the fact there was any programming at all was probably something to be thankful for. As for how Network 10 managed to claw its way back from the brink, only to go into voluntary administration 26 years later and get bailed out by CBS, well, that's a tedious story for another time.